Yeah, so what I was saying is, yeah, you really, spirit in human design has a different quality or different word or different meaning of the word than, a lot of people use when they say spirit. In human design, and, Ra tends to use the term more like spirited. And for instance, you have gate 51, so that rouses my spirit. I have gate 25. It's like a rousing speech. My dad has gate 51 too, so my whole life, having two parents with gate 51, and here I am with the gate 25, and always having a defined ego around them, constantly defining my ego as long as I'm in aura. And vice versa, because both you and my dad have undefined ego. But in any case, I was talking about the cross of healing. So, the cross of healing is so misunderstood. It's thought of as the healer, as the fifth line projection field of the healer. Particularly the 5-1 cross of healing. There's 4 different, for instance, my friend David's a cross of healing also, 6-2 cross of healing. And I know, and also Bob, my uncle, is a 6-2 cross of healing. So it's funny how there's clusters. My best friend since I was 18, although we haven't seen each other as much as I would have liked, but he is a 6th line on the roof. And then my uncle, being other examples of cross healings. But the 6-2s don't get the projection that they can help you. It's very different. The 5-1 in particular, the 5-2 gets that projection as well, but people also notice the second line, but they could be doing so much more. That's what they say. They could be doing so much more. How's it going? So, it's a very different thing to be a 5-1, because then there's always the projection that you can help them. So this is kind of the classic doctor, but what does Ra find problematic about it? Why does Ra not like doctors? What does he have against doctors? Mm-hmm. Well, let's put it in context. I mean, healing is a 7-centered concept. Healing is a concept that we have encountered throughout all of the history of the development of Western thought, which, as Jung says, healing is wholing, becoming whole. And this becoming whole is a fundamental metaphor. That's okay, people can walk by. It's a fundamental metaphor. Hey, you guys can walk through, it's no big deal. We're just doing a little talk. Yeah. It's okay, just walk through, it's no big deal. So what they're, healing being wholing, WHOLING, becoming whole. It's this feeling that we're incomplete. I mean, this is kind of a fundamental precept of the 7-centered being. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can walk through. It doesn't bother me at all. No, I love dogs, animals, and humans too. Oh, he doesn't want to go. Well, you guys just have to hang out with us now. That's totally fine.
I guess we're staying.
Yeah, please. Well, they have the same hair. See, they're. She thinks she's one of.
I know. Hi.
Oh.
What kind is she?
She is an Italian water dog.
Oh,
Italian water dog. How cool.
Beautiful. Her fur is so nice.
I know, she's like a lamb. I think she's a little hot right now. She's getting sheared on Friday.
Is that your place with? I saw you walking over there with the bubbles coming out of it.
Oh no, I was. We were having a doggy birthday party.
Oh, okay.
Over there. Yeah.
That's whoever does that. It's so great. I love that. I love that.
Hey, come on, Bubs.
Makes it really magical.
Oh, okay.
Well, sometimes. There you go. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Oh, well,
Always works.
You know how to. Yeah, no, animals love people, and animals love reflectors. What were we just talking about right before that?
Holy.
Oh, yeah. Healing, metaphor. Healing is a metaphor where it's really a, I bought into that metaphor for so long, the metaphor of individuation that Jung talks about, of becoming whole, becoming complete. Hillman, who's really kind of James Hillman, a post-Jungian, almost like deconstructionist version of Jung. He's like a Derridian Jungian. Hillman said that that whole metaphor that simile that Jung uses of psychological growth is like integrating various pieces of yourself and so on, is really a cannibalistic simile, or it's a cannibalistic kind of analogy. Why would I want to consume these various parts of me and ingest them and incorporate them to become in my body? Incorporate. Right? Again, it's part of this wholing metaphor of healing. So you see what healing really is there's so many traps. I mean, when you really put it in the context of healing throughout history, I mean, doctors put leeches on people. I mean, have you ever heard, or there's like that movie with Matthew Broderick that takes place in 1900 with the Kellogg's, when they had, a lot of crazy stuff was happening in the late 1800s, early 1900s in medical science. You have scoliosis, some of the horrors people with scoliosis have had.
Or even, there's all kinds of different ways the psychiatric community has tortured people.
Absolutely, the psychiatric community is absolutely, has been used in Russia, for instance, or here even to silence dissidents, and so it's, and yet there's also a tremendous help that some people get from the healers, if we can call them that. I mean, and I am on this cross of healing, so part of my role is to exemplify this, to be kind of the fifth line, but also as a heretic, to exemplify a heretical take on healing. And a lot of 5-1s in this cross won't do that. They will just seduce you with promises of health, because the fifth line is the real seducer who convinces you to get the surgery or convinces you to do the thing, and then it doesn't work out. That's the not self of the 5-1. But beyond that, I just want to kind of take it back to this whole idea that healing is seven-centered. And so many people in the Facebook groups and so on go into, I'm looking for healing and I need to heal my trauma and all this stuff. There are human design folks who do really great work on trauma. And there are human design practitioners who, specialize in trauma or working with, there's so many different specialties, and there's so many different, there's front lines of the masses, and then there's front lines of the mutation. And there are two different sides of it. There's the mutative core of what's happening, and the front lines of that are the avant-garde, who are basically taking in the radical changes that are happening to the world in real time, as Ra did, and seeing what's happening, the massive mutations and the dissolution of corporations and so on, with eyes wide open, kind of as the fall of the cross of planning, and and there's that whole side of it. Then there's people who are trying to get out as much helpful information as possible to as many people as possible, which means engaging with a lot of people who will never really deeply understand human design. And for them, approaching it as a healing self-help system, has some merit or value, because they'll never be interested in it as anything but. But again, I can't in good conscience promote human design as a healing system, or even promote any notion of healing, because here is Ra's great joke about it. You learn about the 5-1, and see, I didn't get this until a year after my kind of initiation into human design. I didn't get it until a year later. Then I was reading in the Incarnation Process by Profile, and I got to it, and I dropped everything I was doing because I was so shocked. It's like sometimes you get information that just hits you like a freight train. And it just completely changed my entire understanding of it. And the fact of the matter is, it wouldn't have got through to me if it weren't for a very specific thing, a very specific statement. Hey, how's it going? You can walk through, it's okay, whatever you want. Okay, yeah. Sorry. We made this little, we made the little block. It's like we have a little toll here, like a little toll bridge. But okay, so for that I have to tell my human design, my human design initiation story. So you were actually the first person to ever tell me about human design. You emailed me about it in 2006. You met someone at a party. But having a right variable mind, which you've described as being forgetful, is more just that you can't always access the right information until somebody else pulls it from you, and different people pull different info from you. So I think when I brought it up, you didn't necessarily remember sending that email. But you are a fifth color, which is known as the messenger. The fifth color, motivation, that personality, Sun Earth, is the messenger. And so you are kind of the messenger. You're messenger of the family. You're always telling me what's going on in different people's lives. You're the messenger of the people delivering the information or the news. You are the newspaper of the people in your life. And the more you live your design, the more you deliver correct information. And the more, you freak out in the not self, as we all do, the more that information is skewed, right? And distorted and sugar-coated or exaggerated or whatever else. Feel free to interrupt me at any point. By the way. You're like, I don't do that.
I'm listening to my son.
Okay, well, it's nice for you to listen to me, but I talk a lot. I'm happy to listen to you too. Okay, but anyway, you'll enjoy this because you know all the players involved.
Yeah.
So 2006, I didn't get human design. I didn't have time to get human design. I was just doing my own thing. I have base 2, which is a mind that's it is mind. It's the principle of mind. My personality, Sun Earth, is in base 2 and always has been, and this is kind of someone who's very comfortable and smoothly operating as not self. I'm the most smooth operator, not self, in the sense that I can just be not self and just, operate cleanly in the world as not self and make a lot of money and be really successful and all these things. Also maybe because of the 46-5, which is projected on that it will have success. It's the expectation of success. You know, everyone expects me always to be successful. I was told at one point, someone made a reference and then said, well, you're worth $30 million. And I said, what are you talking about? I don't know where they even made up that number, but this is how the game of telephone works. You know, I can assure my viewers that if you were to take in my assets and my liabilities, I'm liable for far greater than my assets could possibly hope to cover. But in any case, you know, so I wasn't taking it in. I was just smoothly operating. You know, and that's the thing is, like, I can see how for someone like me, it's not even that human design. I mean, human design did help me, but it helped me in a very different way. And it helped me in a very deep way that had to do with my spirit and had to do with, I mean, I have gate 25 as part of my incarnation cross, and that is the gate of the spirit. And learning what that really means, you know, learning, that's how I started on, like, how in human design it's like being spirited, being passionate, maintaining your spirit, like maintaining integrity to stay true to yourself and not be corrupted to sacrifice. That's what spirit is, you know what I mean? That's what spirit really is. And so it's very different than like when people say spiritual, you know. And the gate of 25, gate of spirit, is the love of everything. It's the universal love of everything. The love of the sunrise, the love of the ants, the love of the inanimate objects, the chairs and the, you know, rocks and all that stuff. And so it really is this transpersonal love. But in any case, learning what that spirit was for me, you know, it's interesting when you look at other cross of healing 5-1s. Christopher Reeves. You want to learn what the spirit is, you can't learn what the spirit is without having some relationship to healing. You have to almost reject healing to find the spirit. Reject the seven-centered BS about healing that says you need a doctor to heal you to find your spirit. Because as soon as you say, I need a doctor to heal me, you know, it's a different thing. I mean, I'm on the cross of healing 2, so I'm the variation. It really is all about that gate 25. That's the cross of healing 1 with the personality sun gate 25. My personality sun is gate 46, so I'm the cross of healing 2, the variation of it. But when you see, you know, but mine of course being in the Godhead of Jesus and people projecting on me that I would be the savior, the classic healer. What was you just told the story, tell our listeners.
What it was.
When I was 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, when you were a little boy, I said, like many parents do, what do you want to do when you grow up? And you said, I'm going to be a healer. And I said, how are you going to heal people? And you said, you put your finger out, you said, I'll just touch them and they'll be healed.
Yeah. So that's some cross of healing stuff. Excuse me for people at home hearing it move around like that. So that's some cross of healing stuff. You know, it's not saying that trying to heal people, so on, is something to not, like in that sense of being a healer, I mean, you can see that the spirit has this desire to heal. You can see where the healing came from. You can see that it's not out of nowhere, but then you can also see the not self of it. So maybe before I get to what made me laugh, which was Ra's description of the 5-1 that really blew my mind, I have to explain why it got through to me. Okay, so in 2015, September 12th, 2015, I went to the Imagine Festival, the very first one. And there I met Antonina Ananda, a 2-4 reflector. You're a 1-3 reflector, of course. But I met this 2-4 reflector around noon that day. And we're watching my friend David, who I mentioned earlier, the 6-2 Cross of Healing. And he's playing music. And that morning I had a fight with my girlfriend at the time. And she didn't come. You know, she was writing at the house. And that's fine. But in any case, I talked to Antonina for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. I mean, she told me so much about human design. And I'm not the kind of person to ask a lot of questions. I have the gate of answers, not questions, you know, and I'm blast, not consume. So I'm not the kind of person to be going around asking and inquiring. So it's really hard for things to get through to me. You know, it takes a lot for something to get through to me. And, but in any case, I was telling her about Enneagram and Myers-Briggs, which I now see were kind of preparatory, you know, initiation rituals. One of my good 5-1 allies, Kazlan, actually I don't know if you got to ever meet her, but I think you did briefly. Yeah, you met her briefly once one day. But in any case, she introduced me to the Enneagram and taught me about it in a very obscure, mystical way by watching other people and pointing out, oh, that person, because of the way they're walking, I can tell they're a 6. And, oh, this person's definitely a 9, and all that. It was really fun, doing gait analysis. Anyway, so I could see how all of this preparatory work I did with these systems and Jung and all these things came together to kind of prepare me for human design. But in any case, I was talking to Antonina about all that stuff. Antonina came up with grapes. Grapes, really a great image. I'm sitting in the middle of a field watching David play. It's noon, and nobody's there because it's noon at a festival on the first day. And so first day of the festival at noon, everyone's checking out the festival grounds. Everyone's getting food. Everyone's whatever. They're not watching. So I'm the only person sitting there. And hello. Hi. Hello. You can come to me. Hi. And I'm sitting there, and I just, yeah, sorry. I know her. Yeah. Very, very sweet woman. And his partner passed away, who I knew for many years. Ed. Ed, you always would see Ed here. Yeah, the Pisces. Yeah, he passed away. And really just wonderful guy. I mean,
I wondered about him today when I drove by.
Yeah, Pisces. Pisces, I think he was a 2-4. Loved Ed the Viking. Just a moment for Ed.
Yeah.
But, so in any case, it's this great image. I'm sitting in the middle of the field, and I'm just watching my buddy play drums in this band, and Antonina, who I didn't know, just walks up to me from a very far distance, and I just watch her walk all the way towards me and finally just sit next to me. That's the real generator magic, is that just like that doggy came up, most animals are, reflectors, and Antonina's a reflector, you're a reflector. There's a real magnetic pull, and also reflectors are drawn to mutants. They're always drawn to the mutative. The most mutative person in the room, they're going to find him. And as not self, they're going to find him to try to convince him to stop being mutative, because they could mess everything up, and it could be dangerous, and it could hurt things, and someone could get hurt, and oh my God. But as the true self, they find him because they just want to hang out where the actual clean energy is, because everybody else has effed up auras, and when they hang out with someone who has clean energy, they feel great, So, well, a lot of people it's all about alignment. That's what replaces healing, is alignment, aligning to the clean energy, aligning to the right environment, aligning to the right forces, aligning to the right allies, the right people, the right scene, being on the right scene. So, but anyway, so Antonina gave me all this information, and it's not like it immediately worked. I mean, I call human design catching the slowest virus, the world's slowest virus. It enters, you catch it, it takes years to see how it's changed you, because it's a logical virus, and as Ross says, logic moves at a snail's pace. People would come to human design and they learn about it and go, oh my God, this is amazing, it's going to change the world, it's going to revolutionize everything, and then Ross says, no, it's logical. Logic moves at a snail's pace. It's simply not going to move fast enough to change the world. This world is not here for long enough for there to be, it's maybe another 1,500 years, but it's definitely not long by, cosmic standards, right? It's not long enough for something like that to enter in. It's not about that. There's no reason for human design knowledge to enter the collective in that way. So anyway, she told me all this stuff, and then I never saw her again, and then she, left. I didn't see her the rest of the event. I didn't see any of that. Now, that kicked off a really interesting experience. So that night at midnight, this is now exactly 12 hours later, we were to meet at midnight. And I just love the symmetry of this. I met her right at noon, right when I got there. And then at midnight, exactly at midnight, there was a planned meeting by Zeptospace, which is that kind of cool Burning Man group. People like, is it Chris F., Honey Bear, and all these people. They're really cool people, and Island and these Island Halogram and all these people are kind of part of that scene. David's kind of part of that scene, and Russ, Yayo's friend, and so anyway, so all this group of people, really cool kind of mutative group of people. They all gathered together, and they had everybody write down something on a piece of paper. And they said, we're going to go on an event or on an experience, basically, where they're not really saying what it was, but they've planned this whole thing. And you write down on a piece of paper, you have to write down, they said, if you were going to die tomorrow and just only leave one statement, what would you leave? And everybody sat and we worked on it. I think I wrote down a Jung quote. I mean, it wasn't so banal as like who looks outside, who looks inside, who looks outside dreams, who looks within, like awakens. It wasn't something banal like that, but it was some kind of deep Jung quote or some kind of deep concept, or I don't really know. And which is even funnier when you hear what it's used for than what I got. And so anyway, we went on this walk, and Grandpa was there. I don't know if you ever met Grandpa, but Grandpa would come to some of these events, and Grandpa was, having a beard and playing guitar and going, well, hello, everybody. Well, aren't you youngins? I've been here since those trees were toothpicks. I've been blah, blah, That was great. So we had a wonderful time, and then Chris F. read something out of Mad Hatter, or read a really, no, it was like Jabberwocky. It's like one of these, and squeaky squeak went swiddle to the, all those things. And it was great. We went from music and so on. It's getting darker and darker. It gets to be almost 2 a.m. and we get to these frames that are illuminated, 4 frames just kind of illuminated. This is on Orcas Island, right by Doe Bay. So for viewers at home, look up Doe Bay, Orcas Island, and look at photos, and you can see exactly where it is. We were walking along the water and then into the forest and through these trails. And we got to the point where they had previously set up 4 picture frames, and those picture frames had people standing behind them who were illuminated. And they were oracles, and we stood in line, and each of those oracles read a piece of paper to us and gave it to us. And the one that I got was, God helps those who help themselves. And it's funny because I put, the most profound thing I could think of, and that was the most banal, mundane, Hallmark card. I put it in my wallet and I went on. And then I got back. Well, within 30 days, my entire life had changed. I mean, the funny thing is, I think that people ask a lot about Incarnation Cross, and I think Incarnation Cross tells you what your deconditioning will be like. You're on the cross of surprise, you're going to get a lot of surprises. Everything you thought about the way the world is going to be, shown to surprise you with all sorts of different conclusions than the ones you'd come to. I'm on the cross of healing. It's going to make me really sick, and my spirit is going to be tested, and my spirit in the face of illness will be tested, right? So it's a different thing. It's a very different thing. But God helps those who help themselves. The spirit is helped if you, have integrity. The spirit demands integrity.
Number 1 and you investigate.
I mean, that's what supports it. I mean, that's the other parts, the other aspects of the cross of healing for me are the 58-1 and the 52-1. And the reason those are the other aspects for me, of course, I'm a 5-1, my personality sun. There's only 2 crosses of healing, 1 in 25, 1 in 46. I'm a 5-1 on gate 46, and so I have 52 and 58. That is, 52 is stillness. Healing requires stillness. Stillness, waiting, timing, waiting and gathering together. Not gathering like gate 45, gathering forces, but concentrating, I guess you could say. All 52 is yearning for concentrating. It can cause a lot of depression if it doesn't have a focus of what to concentrate. But I luckily have the channel of concentration, so I don't suffer from depression. I don't have, not to say that everyone that, again, this is the healing metaphor. This is the healing thing. Look at the pharmaceutical industry. How many people suffer from depression, right? And you can look at their chart and go, oh, you have a hanging gate in the format channel there. Any of the format channels, any channel between the root and the sacral that is hanging is going to lead to depression unless you have enough outlet for it. Unless you, for those people, my practical advice is meet somebody who has the harmonic, not the harmonic, but, the harmonic of the channel, the corresponding gate at the other end of the channel, and, hang out with them. Hang out with them once a week. Make a plan to spend once a week co-working session. If you have gate 9, hang out with a gate 52 once a week or twice a week. You don't need to all the time. You don't want to get the conditioning all the time, but you can use the conditioning. Or just go work in public where you're guaranteed to get a certain amount of conditioning from the ambient aura. Okay, so anyway, but yeah, you can see that gate 52 is a component of its stillness, and then there's also gate 58, which is also in the root. These, as I was saying earlier, these are the only 2 logical fuels. The only 2 logical fuels. There's also a logical pressure from the 63, but that's different. It's not even within the matrix in some sense. It's outside. I mean, in some sense, the gates end at gate 62. It's kind of a funny one there, but I'll leave that for another day. But in any case, the only true legitimate logical pressures or fuels are from the root, and they are the 52 and the 58, and they fuel the entire logical process, and this is why logic is always starved. This is why everyone always wants money for their experiments. the experiential is not starved. Experiential meaning like going on a trip, going out to eat. Look at how much money is spent going out to eat. The new restaurant. Look at how much money is spent tourism, traveling, having new experiences. Everyone's always down. You say, hey, you want to go on a trip with me? Everyone says yes. But if you say, hey, do you want to enter into this experiment with me? Logic is starved. You see that to enter into a logical experiment takes money. Scientists are always begging for grants, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have that gate 58, and its quality in Incarnation Cross, that gate 58 is the gate, the joy that is required to heal. It is the gate of the joyous. It is the joy that ultimately goes into perfecting things and improving things. But that joyousness is another component of healing. Okay, so we have gate 46, the gate of the temple, of the body, of caring for the body, of saunas and bathing and massages, and all of the non-sexual love of the body. Completely non-sexual. This is a universal, impersonal, it's part of what's called a tantric channel. People misunderstand that and think it's sexual. It's not. Tantric means moving that sacral fertility energy into the spirit, transmuting that into a spiritual energy, into spiritual purpose, and so on. And so that gate 46 is this purely, this pure love of the body as the body. And then we have gate 25, this pure transpersonal love, they're both transpersonal, of inanimate objects, of the sunrise and the sunset. And gate 25, Ra would say, he had it, and he said, people misunderstand it. They misunderstand that quality of love, and it's like it's the coldest love on earth. It's like I love you, but I also love my guitar, and I also love the sunrise. So it's it's as cold as it can be, because it's the equal impersonal love of things, and it's deeply materialistic. It's as materialistic as it gets, despite being this gate of spirit. I mean, the spirit is a bone, to quote Hegel. Okay, so we see the 46 and the 25, this love of the body, love of inanimate objects, combined with 52, stillness, 58, joy. The joyousness, the kind of puppy dog joy of being alive, the love of life, the love of simply being alive, that can then be channeled in this kind of cold-hearted way into logic. It's so funny how that works. But that's like logic requires that. If you don't have a tremendous puppy dog joy in undertaking, if you see scientists, they're really puppy dogs. The best ones have gate 58 like me, and they're willing and eager, like a puppy dog, to do the experiment because they can't wait to see it. They're taking joy, and it's being channeled into the coldest, most, reptilian type things. You've really been through a lot with me, Mom. I had a David Icke phase. I don't talk about that very much. And she went to see David Icke with me. And, I was never fully crazy, but at the same time, it helped prepare me because I had to break out and find my way to the metaphors of what this matrix that's controlling us is. And from there I found Goro Adachi, who said, no, there's no conspiracy. It's all synchromysticism. It's the mysticism of synchronicity. And then from there I was able to open up to Rick Tarnas, to archetypal astrology. I mean, you were already working at Antioch with Randy, what's his name? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. It's yeah. You have sixth color digestive system. Make sure you're drinking enough water. If you don't have enough water, your memory is the first thing to go. But in any case, for years and years and years. What's that?
We're sitting in the sun.
We're sitting in the sun, so at least that she's following that part of her digestive regimen, which is the direct light. Although you're the one in the shade. I guess it's hitting you. It's okay.
But I'm not having water.
You're not having water. Well,
That's okay.
I have no. I have water. Here we are. Right here.
Trying to think of his name.
It's okay. All those Jungians. I mean, we went to see Rick Tarnas, or at least he told me about it. And I went my mom worked at Antioch as an adjunct, and in Antioch, Seattle for years, and they have a great Jung program. And you even brought over Carson and people. I don't know if he was so much of a Jungian, but you brought over some really cool people to my parties sometimes.
Yeah.
My mom's always been very bohemian. I was really lucky in that way. And so was my dad. I mean, painter and so on. But in any case, so getting back to it, there are all these preparatory things you have to go through to actually get to the point where you can receive and enter into that logical experiment. And for me it was, going through David Icke to Goro Adachi to Rick Tarnas to prepare the groundwork to be able to take in, maybe even to Hillman to a degree, and then to human design. Because I was reading a lot of Hillman at that point. But I mean, there are other, there are others too.
1 second, Randy Morris.
Randy Morris, Morris, really brilliant. Yeah, I saw him talk. He's great. He's fantastic.
He has a lot of good things.
Great speaker. Yeah, and I've been lucky to know a lot of Jungians. I mean, our friend Perry brings in Phil Cousineau. And, what's funny is I used to feel so lucky to have brushed shoulders with so many people, and I still do in a way. But now I just kind of see it as, wow, like, I was the freakier one than them in some sense, in that they were helping me lay the groundwork for my reception of human design, when I thought that I was lucky to brush shoulders with them because I might be able to offer them something. So it's simultaneously like realizing, like, too bad they couldn't get it from me, but also thank you for helping me. I mean, as Jung says, someone else can only take you as far as you can go. In any relationship between two people, one will be the container and one will be the contained. And, it's very much, at least in certain respects.
Isn't it true also, though, that if you introduce people to human design in any way or form, in the slightest way or a deeper way, that they might not go for it, but in the future they might, because it's there, it's a seed.
It's the seed of the virus if it gets through. It's a great question. It's the seed of the virus if it gets through. But if it does not get through, like, I don't actually think, I mean, if it does not get through, then it's one more preparatory part. Like, they weren't ready for it then, and now they will be. Like, for instance, I met with a friend yesterday, not really a friend, more of an acquaintance. Oh, yeah, you met her.
Yeah.
And we were hanging out, and she said she still has a laminated human design chart I did for her like 5 years ago with Brian and Nate, of where David used to live, and all these like Burning Man people. I feel like Burning Man is kind of mutation adjacent, just like Gene Keys is mutation adjacent. These are like the neighbors of mutation. They're like the mutative, they're like part of a mutative core or part of a mutative edge. They're just kind of the.
But there's nothing to say
show
that
of
in
it.
6 or 7 years that young woman who has that won't start taking it seriously or learning more about it or be more
Right,
interested.
and for some people they catch it without even realizing
Yeah.
it. So I had another friend, Maddie, who and I hope she doesn't mind. I'm talking about people more now because I've asked a lot of them and they say they don't mind being mentioned as names. But in any case, but she's a second line, so she might. But in any case, she's the one who said, I don't know if I'm in the experiment or not. And I said, of course you are, because she's an emotional projector, and knowing her, now it's just part of her vocabulary. She says, well, I have to wait. I'm not really sure yet. And like, just that is enough. But in any case, you do kind of see how the incarnation cross becomes part of what your deconditioning looks like. So a cross of healing might become really sick and have their spirit tested. A cross of the sleeping phoenix might burn everything to the ground when they wake up, because the phoenix rises from the ashes. And each of these crosses kind of has a hint at what the deconditioning looks like. And that deconditioning process, or that flowering process, as it may be, depending where it is, that the flowering is a phase in human design that happens in the post-Chiron, after the age of 50. And I think that's when a lot of people experience that. I think it's, even for myself, I'm excited if I live long enough to get to the flowering, which I certainly hope I do, then, I'll be excited to see what that flowering looks like. And that's something else, is human design gives me such a spirit and an excitement for growing old, which is something that is so rare, and that's another thing that James Hillman talks about, and that Rick Tarnas would also talk about, is how good Hillman is at, understanding the real flowering of that third phase of life. Although Tarnas didn't put it in those words because he's not in human design, even though I've done, maybe it's professional courtesy not to talk about who I've done readings for, but not him, but people in his circles. Okay, well, in any case, so I have this experience, so my deconditioning is getting really sick. So September 12th, 2015, September 13th, I wake up. This is my first day of the rest of my life. The first day after having 4 hours of being told about waiting to respond, and told about how the 5-1 works, and told about the sacral and all this stuff. And it's crazy. I mean, we end up leaving the festival. I'm having huge fights, all this stuff. I didn't understand any of the dynamics. My girlfriend had gate 22. I had gate 12. We both had undefined throat and undefined solar plexus. It's split off from everything else, which is Ra nicknames fighting in public, because you hang out together and you can't fight because it doesn't connect. But then you're with other people, and then it bridges it, and it all happens. And in any case, within 1 month, we'd broken up. Within 1 month, she had moved out of my house. We were living together at that point. This is September 2015. My entire life took a huge turn at that point. So within 1 month, she had moved out. And for that next year, they say the first year of the 7-year deconditioning, because if you look at the 64 gates, this is something Richard Rudd discovered. If you look at the 64 gates, I guess they go this way, around the wheel, you'll see that if you divide 7 years, you get like 39.98 days or something, 39.998 days, per. It's wild. You get such a precise, almost 40-day segment for each gate, because by dividing the 64. So what's interesting is you can see it was starting at gate 3, starting at chaos at the beginning. It creates the first 30 days are chaos, and they were almost clockwork. So 2 years later, I went back and painstakingly went through it. Sorry, not first 30, the first 40 days. I painstakingly went through and I went from 12 noon, or maybe like 2:40 noon or something. Like I estimated exactly when I got the virus, so to speak. And I counted in 40-day increments from there, and I looked through old journals, and I looked through old emails, because you can search in Google for email ranges, and I found exactly what had happened when we, like 40 days almost to the button. By the end of 40 days, was split up, she had moved out, my entire life was changed, and I had been to the hospital for the first time for what was either an anxiety attack or I think really development of shellfish allergies, because at that point I was still eating shellfish, and I was still eating a lot of Thai food which has shellfish in it. And one of the symptoms of anaphylaxis, besides the other symptoms I was getting, I used to get, you saw me that night after with Priscilla when we had the crab, and I had all the, you remember I had all the welts in my fingers, and my lip was all swollen up, and I was like this with red, And the thing is, anaphylaxis can kill you. Yeah. It can kill you because it can do that to your, I was just lucky that it only did it to my cheeks and my nose and my hand where I touched it. But even after that, I stupidly kept eating this stuff. But again, the 5-1 cross of healing is one of the most hypochondriac there can be, because the 5th line is the only non-exalted line, the 5th line of gate 46. It's actually the 4-6 on the cross right before the cross of healing. I guess it's the 4-6, is it the vessel? I guess 4-6 vessel of love. That is the exalted profile, and the 4-1, because they have the 4th line. I'm digressing, but in any case, it's a very weak line, like sickly. You were saying I wasn't that sickly as a kid, but I remember getting a lot of colds, being kind of sickly. You said I got poison oak a lot.
I think maybe when you were in junior high, you started going to school, when you started having sickness, right?
Right, when I started being around.
Because
when I started being around
homeschooled
people.
before that. So when we came to Seattle, the weather was different. Everything was different.
Yeah, and I think even when I was younger, I was kind of protected and sheltered in a way that to me also feels like the sickly hypochondriac style of being, of just hypersensitivity to things. There's a real sensitivity there. I felt very sensitive. Sensitive. Okay.
You saw lots of people.
Yeah, no, but it's not about. It's not about whether I got colds or not.
Beach lifestyle.
Right. I grew up kind of in shores. Well, it's not really about whether I got a cold or not. It's more about this sickliness of spirit, of kind of being like, I don't want to go. Do I have to get out? Do I have to go? Do I have to get up? Do I have to? It's like taking sick days more than anything. Yeah. That's what I mean. I don't mean physically. And I definitely wasn't neglected. I was nourished with the most amazing organic food and on and on. I'm not talking about that. It's not that, it's not even that my genetics were sickly, other than that the activations in my human design are kind of the signature of a very, that's part of the cross of healing, is about sickliness, is about those things. I really hope this isn't making the microphone really loud. I'm going to try to reattach this now. I think I just have to put this, because of the wind, I'm going to put this back under my shirt, and then you just tell me any questions or interrupt me, and I will repeat them to make sure people get it, at least for now, because I think otherwise I think it's going to make too many noises while I move it around. Okay, hopefully this won't make too many noises. All right, so let's just make sure it's still recording and we're still good and everything. And have a sip of water. Yeah, we are still recording. Very good. Thanks for doing this, Mom. Okay, so we're both undefined egos, so our thank yous are like. Okay, so I have all the water you want.
That's what we're getting to.
Are you getting impatient for the real point? Okay, I thought.
What's going to crack me
it's
up
the
about
journey.
Healing?
Oh yeah, she said, what's going to crack her up about healing? Because I said it's going to crack you up when you get to it. Okay, so anyway, so I go through these 40-day segments, and I'm going through, the first year is hell. I'm in and out of the hospital. I'm in the hospital 7 times. I really did have triggers into the most extreme anxiety attacks possible of hystericus globus through eating shellfish, which if you read about if you read about how that works and how anaphylaxis works, which I absolutely was getting, this is not hypochondriac.
Oh, no.
But the hypochondriac aspect of it is how you react to it. What do you know if you've been poisoned? What do you do if you know? The thing is, one of the side effects of anaphylaxis is basically an anxiety attack, because your body feels like it's dying, it feels like it's been poisoned. And so what it actually does is it causes anxiety attack symptoms. So it's very hard to distinguish. And sometimes, eating a little shellfish can kind of cause an anxiety attack type situation through cross-contamination. But there's other aspects of it as well, right? A lot of it is psychological. Well, now at the same time, I was also living in a lot of mold. I didn't know that. It wasn't until I moved out, also a year later. And I had my sacral awakening after about 9 months. It was June 19th of 2016, solstice, it was the Sunday of the solstice parade. And the Sunday of the solstice parade, or possibly it was a week after, it was right before, maybe it was actually June 30th. Yeah, it was the week after the solstice parade. And so the solstice parade, I had 50 people at my house, and they were all stepping on the roof and so on, and I had a 10-foot long, 3-foot wide colony of Stachybotrys cartorum black mold growing in the roof from roof leaks of my apartment, my top floor apartment in Seattle, which is very rainy. And this mold, I went to my neighbor's apartment who also had it. She said, "Oh, I thought that was just caulking or something. I thought that was just, the kind of spray. It was black, but it would drip." And I said, "No, it's definitely not. It was thick and goopy like caulking, and if I would leave an apple out, it would be covered in a fine fuzz within a day or two." And I was like, "Is this going moldy already? That's so weird." I was getting this black dust on everything. People told me it was that my windows weren't sealed enough, so I even bought window sealers and so on because they said it was from the traffic. And it's not from the traffic. The black dust was literally the spores of the mold. So I was completely inundated. Sometimes I would look in the mirror and I would see my eyes and they were huge, like Disney character. And I would think, am I going crazy? Am I cracking up? Is this what it is? And a year prior, you remember the year I had the week I had terrible anxiety and depersonalization, which was probably also from the mold. Yeah. It was also, that was like 2014. That was 2014 in the summertime. And it was right after summer solstice again. So every time people would come and hang out on the roof and jump up and down on it, it would make more leaks and it would, knock all of the dust of the spores and so on. And it was like every year I was like tripping on acid for a week straight without realizing it. That depersonalization time, I would walk down to the PCC co-op and it would be like seeing everything frozen except for the people moving. And these people would be moving. It's kind of like if you've seen an animated GIF that has like little pieces of it moving, or kind of like a film where they have like a really nice still camera and like different things are happening in different corners. I could just see with my peripheral vision fully. My peripheral vision was completely, like acute. It's very, very interesting. So that also seems now like part of the initiation. The fact that I lived in mold for 5 years in a very toxic black mold. Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Totally fine. Toxic black mold. And so, the Stachybotrys cartorum, if you read about it online, and we had tests and found out that's what it was and so on. But in any case, everyone moved. But I moved to Ballard. So it wasn't until a year later and I was in Ballard. It was almost exactly a year later. And I had been such a different person. I ended up losing like 30 or 40 pounds. Everyone thought I had an eating disorder. I was undergoing radical transformations. I lost my appetite for almost everything. I didn't have an eating disorder. I didn't at all. For one thing, losing weight, not for everybody, but intermittent fasting, that's part of mine and yours and everybody who's an upper trigram dietary regimen, more or less depending on other configurations. And, I need a lot of protein because I have 952 and I'm left variable, so I need more, and so on, but more calories. But nevertheless, intermittent fasting is part of my genetic makeup. And everyone thought I was, bulimic or something, or, anorexic. And the fact of the matter is I knew 2 people, I should have said content warning, eating disorder, but I knew 2 people very close personally that had eating disorders at that point. And it was very disturbing for me to watch them when their eating disorders waste away. And I actually lived with one of them, and I almost dated the other. But in any case, it was a really interesting time in my life. And it was learning cross of healing lessons, because you'll see part of it is that the cross of healing, once they wake up, they never heal anyone ever again. They're the doctor who quits their job and says, screw this healing business. I'm not going to get stuck in that. I'm not going to get wrapped into that, because the fact of the matter is, here's what I read. Okay. So 1 year after my human design initiation, to the day almost, it's Ra's entry to the 5-1 Cross of Healing 2 in the Incarnation Crosses by Profile. And for those of you who have it, you can read it. I'll paraphrase. He says, this healing business, these are the great agents of the program. It's all about control. It's all about telling others what to do. It's you sit still. You follow my prescription. You do what the doctor says. You do. It's all about, I will heal your body, but only if you maintain your integrity to sit still and follow my directions and all this stuff. And it's all this 7-centered garbage. And he says, we don't really have any awake crosses of healing, but if we did, they would know God helps those who help themselves.
That's funny.
Word for word. Ra doesn't mention God. He doesn't use crappy aphorisms like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't say dumb things like that. You know what I mean? So what a beautiful little wink. I mean, I stood up and didn't sit back down for a while. I mean, it's like I can't sit down after hearing that, because I had kept that in my wallet the whole time. I had had it on my fridge the whole time, going through my terrible breakup, going through the hospital, all that stuff. I didn't know why, but I looked at it, and there it was, because that had helped me. That little note had helped me because that had marked day 1 of my experiment. And then here we are a year later, and out of the 768 variations of Profile and Incarnation Cross, we find that my specific one is about learning that lesson. And that once we learn that lesson, but it's so hard because everyone, just the other day, I met a 20-year-old kid, younger brother of my friend. I was over at, Johnny's, and he was injured. And I was telling him all about Trigger Point. And I was wasn't sure if I really could. Then he kept asking, and then I was like, okay, yeah, let me see if I can heal you. You know what I mean? And it's like you get sucked into it. But what you quickly realize in the healing business is that unless you're interested in controlling people and dominating them because of the sense of power that you get from it and the mana that you get and the sort of power trip, because believe me, doctors are the biggest power trippers. You know this. Every doctor you've talked to has told you, your pain isn't real. Your this isn't real. You're blah, blah, blah. You should try this. You should get surgery. That person's crazy. Everyone's a power tripper. Doctors, I want the doctors out there to get in touch with me. If you're a doctor, get in touch with me, and I want to do human design with you because I've known a lot of doctors. Now, nurses get it. Nurses get it. There are people in the healing arts who really, really get human design, who have come to me independently with human design. And I'm sure there are doctors who get it. I'm sure. Richard Mann. Richard Mann gets it. Richard Mann gets it. If you're a mutant doctor, you get it. But if you're a mutant doctor, you're going to look at all the other doctors out there and go, really? This is what humanity gets? These are our healers? All they want to do is control us, and they just blame us. It's like it's all our fault. And that's the thing is, if you're not interested in controlling people, as soon as you wake up to the 9-centered reality and start living your design and you lose any interest in, you're not looking for that domination, control, the undefined ego and all that stuff, and the validation, and you're not looking for all this. As soon as you do that, you realize that all that's really left is caring for your own spirit. You help yourself, you heal yourself. Now, I still, on a near hourly basis, get caught into, you should move to the ocean because that's where you'll heal. It'll be better for your body. Everyone tells me, this and that. But what I've realized more and more is that it's really about you know what I love more than anything? Sigmund Freud. He had jaw cancer, and he had jaw surgery and so on to remove it, and it was excruciatingly painful because it was in the 1950s, and and he was a smoker, and he had so much pain smoking and so on after that. And he never complained once for 12 years until his death. From when he had it for 12 years of extreme pain, he never complained, except he said at one point, it seemed rather unnecessary.
Wow.
And I had so much respect for that because I realized, here's an example. I can't hear out of my left ear. It doesn't bother me, but I cannot hear at all. Nothing. This, I get the sound, but I get nothing. I have very weird equilibrium, all sorts of ear stuff. I know what it is. I have undefined spleen, so I'm very in touch with my own body. In fact, I went to a guy a year and a half ago right before I went to Seattle, which is the last time I couldn't hear out of one ear. And when I told him, he was a naturopath, but he did trigger point injection therapy, and I said I needed an injection in my left pterygoid. And he actually did both, just for balance. Although it might have been better if he only did one, because then it would have pulled everything over to the tension over here. But in any case, he did both. But it worked. It completely opened at my hearing. I don't have hearing damage. I have hearing loss, intermittent hearing loss caused by TMJ. It's not called TMJ, but trimandibular joint syndrome or whatever. TMJ syndrome. And, and that causes my occasional hearing loss. Now, the fact of the matter is, as a cross of healing, my test is whether I can maintain my spirit in the face of that. It's what Deleuze talks about of Deleuze has a really, really beautiful metaphor. Gilles Deleuze, I've told you about him, the French philosopher. He has such a beautiful metaphor, or not really a metaphor, but way of describing what happens. He talks about someone who loses their limb in battle, and they become, or someone who becomes paraplegic. Look at Christopher, the guy who played Superman, right? He was a cross of healing, 5'1", like me, September 25th, just like me. So, Deleuze is talking about, someone who becomes injured in the war and so on, and that they can either just become fed up with life, they can lose the spirit, they can lose the passion, they can go, life is no good, I had bad luck, everyone else has good luck, It's like if I ever lost, my ability to play piano. Keith Jarrett had a stroke, could never play piano again. That's a cross of healing experience. People think cross of healing, oh, you're a healer, great. No, you want to know what cross of healing is? It's, I'm gonna lose a limb or something and then have to deal with that because that's the test. Robert A. Johnson, the Jungian, not the blues player. I think he lost a leg, pretty sure. And, he talked about how important it is to have the spirit in the face of adversity, right? The spirit is what's important. You've worked much of your life with people who have cerebral palsy, with people who are paraplegic, or, with people who have any manner of limitation and disability that is completely rare and not at all what others have. And it's so easy to look at the others who don't have that disability and to say, they're so lucky, and how bad it is for me, that I'm the one that's crippled. I'm the cripple and they're all lucky, right? It doesn't matter to me because the thing is my hearing comes and goes. When I can't hear out of this ear, I hear out of the other one. You know what I mean? And I still do hear out of this ear. I hear what I say extremely loudly out of this ear because the left ear repeats or kind of echoes internally. I actually remember things that I say more than when that ear is wide open. Whereas the right ear is the one that can respond in the moment. But in any case, this cross of healing business, what happened in the going on almost 6 years since I entered into the human design experiment is I've become healthy. I've become healthy, and I had to get really sick first. I had to get as sick as I've ever been in my life to get healthy. And then what's happened is I've really come to appreciate what Deleuze says, and here's, I never got to it, here's the poetic thing. He says, say you're in a battle, you lose a limb, you're paraplegic. You have to become worthy of what has happened to you. You become worthy of the event. Because if it happened to somebody and they are not able to become worthy of it or to prove their worth to it in some sense, which is funny because I have undefined ego. I find that kind of cute. But, to become worthy of it, what happens to me is to kind of become the person that is graceful enough and broad enough and has enough integrity and has enough wherewithal in themselves and has enough love of their own body that they will never hate their body, no matter if it is a crippled body, no matter if it is a disabled body, whatever it is, and that they can find that joy, gate 55, that joyousness, in the stillness of being alive. And that's the thing, when you don't have the spirit, you can't find joy in stillness because you're in pain. You have chronic pain, you're uncomfortable, it hurts, you feel like crap. You know about more than any, what it's like to feel not great. Yeah. And that undefined spleen, people who have a defined spleen will never get it. Undefined spleen, feels periodically like having the warm blankets ripped off of you and you're just sitting there shivering. But you're sitting there shivering, and what my life is about, my incarnation cross is about, is learning to find the joy in that stillness, shivering there in pain. To still love the body then. It's easy to love the body when you're at the sauna.
Right now.
Huh?
I said I'm trying to also right now.
Okay, well that's a good indication that it's time to wrap up. But in any case, it's easy to find pleasure in the stillness of the sauna. It's not so easy to find pleasure in the stillness of a cold wind and of a hard bench. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Mom, for being
Thank you.
Okay, that's us defining each other's ego. She has the 51, I have the 25, so that's us bringing out the gratitude, bringing out some of that not self-gratitude. Okay, thanks everybody.